Welcome back to the D5Football podcast, where we're going to be going through the bank holiday weekend, extended weekend, slightly because of the Stockport game results, going over both match days. So I think it's going to be about an hour, hopefully, maybe just a bit under. We're joined by Lewis Walsh, as always, who was on last week, will be a Halifax fan and resident National League expert. He won't say that, but I will. How you doing, Lewis?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me back on.
Yeah, so we've got double, like I said, a double header, if you like, of the weekend, and Stockport as well, which was on Tuesday, which I went to. So I'm gonna comment on that and annoy probably fans of both teams, but I don't know. We'll see. That's
When
right.
don't you do that?
Well, based off a few tweets, yeah, I do annoy them quite a lot, but that's right at the very end. So hopefully most of them will have clicked off. Although looking at sort of the numbers on the audio stuff, most people watch to the end, which is quite good. YouTube not the same, but that's how it is. Speaking of people watching and paying attention, a few may have noticed if you follow us on Twitter. A few weeks ago, we entered the FCA's sort of football content awards, sort of voting thing. We put our hat in the ring pure because I thought might as well have go see what we can get, and we actually managed to qualify somehow. Don't know how, but thank you to everyone who voted for us. I don't know how we got into that. So we're now into the final of that. So we're competing against 10 other non-league creators. So for that, if you voted before, you need to vote again, which is a bit of a flawed system, but there we go. So we're going to leave a link in the description as well, and to all that. If you can't find that though, just go on to our Twitter and you'll see it on there. And you can vote on Twitter, Instagram, and website. So that's 3 places for 3 votes, and it just helps us out. And maybe we'll win an award. There's a gold, silver, and bronze. So even if you think, oh, Ollie Bayliss is going to run away with it, which he is, second or third is still possible, you know. So, and that goes for all the categories as well. I think hashtag United are in a category, they're going to run away with it, obviously, but there's still second and third. You know, if you've got a creator you like, you could vote for them and stuff. So, like I said, we'll leave that in the description and go and find it on our Twitter. So you can help us out and get us a bit of publicity, which, to be fair, we did get a little boost in followers and subscribers off the back of that being announced. So it did give us a bit of publicity. So thank you for that. It's about the 5 people who subscribed to the YouTube off the back of that. Anyway, enough of me rambling. We're going to get into what we're calling the first match day, although it's the second match day of the whole season. First match day of this episode, which was the 28th of August. So, first game we've got Dagenham Redbridge 4, Bromley 2. Dagenham Redbridge, obviously 2 wins in a row and conceded first like they did in the first game against Stockport. What do you make of it?
Well, I think again, it's just showed that what kind of character is in that Dagenham squad, because to go down as early as they did, it's just a case of thinking, oh, here we go again. I mean, but to not only come back and win, but to score 4 goals on the bounce off the back of conceding is just incredible. And I think it's really kind of laid down the kind of credentials that Dagenham have for any kind of playoff challenge this season. I mean, Paul McCallum at it again, as you'd expect. If they're going to achieve those credentials, then he's going to just keep scoring as he has been. So, yeah, I think it's just a show of what they're capable of.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mentioned about conceding first. That's sort of for them to concede first, still come back, is still quite good. And against sort of 2 good sides, Stockport and Bromley as well, which obviously quite big for them. I know they had the run towards the end of last season. I think I mentioned last episode where they did quite well. And before that, there was all sorts of doubts over the manager and sort of some of the players about what they could actually do. But they had that good run. It looks like that run is now sort of carrying on to this season. And we obviously put we'll come to that in a minute, actually. I nearly said something wrong, but we'll move on to Dagenham later on for what I was going to say. But I think for them, yeah, it's quite good, obviously, for them doing well. It looked like they could do quite well. Next game.
Yeah, you mentioned about the doubts of Darryl McMahon, and, you know, I've always rated him as a manager. I think he's done good things elsewhere. And so I always had that little bit of belief, even when he was going through that sticky spell at Dagenham, that he'd be able to turn things around and look what's happened once they've shown a little bit of faith in the manager. I mean, that's quite nice to see, I think. I mean, any other club, I think he could have been out the door when he had that sort of bad spell. So credit to them for sticking by him and knowing what he's capable of.
Yeah, completely. Next game, we've got Bournemouth 1, Aldershot 0. What do you make of it?
Well, with Bournemouth, it's like I said last week, I was always a little bit worried that they might struggle after losing Shamanga, but credit to them, they've still kept going. Okay, it was only against maybe an Aldershot side that we might expect to not do so well this year, but you can only play what's in front of you, and to be able to keep picking up these wins is just against these sort of poorer sides is what could be vital for him come the end of the season. But as I've touched on there, I mean, Aldershot, I think they've just not looked right this season. They didn't look right towards the end of last year. And again, I think it's what I've alluded to before. They're on a little bit of a downward spiral. And I think it's just showing in the results at the moment.
Yeah, and after this game, Bournemouth had scored 2 from 2. Won 2 from 2, scoring 3, not conceding any. And Aldershot had lost 2 from 2, not scored a goal, conceded 3. So literally complete opposites in terms of stats of win, loss, scoring, conceding for them after that game as well. And like you said with Aldershot as well, it's not looking good for them. But for Bournemouth as well, despite losing Shamanga, obviously selling into Chesterfield, are still, for now at least, sort of doing well. So we'll see how that goes. Next game we've got Chesterfield 2, Wealdstone 0. Early goal by Saidal Khan and a Carlin late goal. And again, for Chesterfield, not conceding any, which is good for them. And at this point, Wealdstone have lost 2 on the trot. What do you make about that game?
Well, I think it was a resilient display by Wilson. They've shown that they've got that fight that might prove to be vital in that relegation battle. But credit to Chesterfield and credit to George Carline in particular. That's what you want from your substitute, really. I mean, okay, he came on quite early on because of a Jeff King injury, but you still want that sort of impact from your substitutes. And I don't know if it's a bad injury with Jeff King or whatever, but I think having that sort of competition between the two can only be a good thing for James. So, I think that's the sort of best dilemma a manager can have, really, just having 2 really good options in that same right back position. So if Carline can boost his credentials of starting, then yeah, they've got 2 incredible options there, which can only be good for him.
Yeah, completely agree as well. And like I said, Chesterfield looking quite strong this year. Next game we got Eastleigh 0, Wrexham 2. Wrexham coming off the back of that game against Solihull when they were, quite, there's all the publicity as we know around Wrexham. Again, we're not trying to make it all about Wrexham and stuff, but all that publicity around them and the draw at the end, coming into it as well, and as well as Eastleigh as well, what they did towards the back end of last season. Jake Hyde, obviously, ex-Halifax, obviously you'd have seen a lot of him last season, scored both as well, and he scored quite a lot for Halifax last season. Yeah. Both Wrexham games at this point as well have been away, which is obviously because of the rescheduled fixture from last week. So for them as well, obviously having 2 away games, not having that boost from the home game, which we'll come to in a bit, obviously going to play a part, but they still did well, and they won 2-0.
Yeah, and it's kind of what you've alluded to there, really. I think Eastleigh not having that game last week might have kind of had a little bit of an effect there. I mean, if you're going to lose that little bit of match sharpness, that could be what loses you the game, really. But yeah, credit to Wrexham. They knew what they were paying for with Jake Hyde, and he's provided an almost instant response in terms of providing them goals. Honestly, I think it could be a really interesting battle between him and Paul Mullin to see who scores them more, because they're both capable of scoring 20, 25 goals this season. And honestly, based on the last couple of seasons, I genuinely could not tell you who's going to win that battle.
That'll be interesting to speak about as well. And obviously, Mullin, as we know, we all know about him, of course. Everybody's heard about him, obviously, what he did for Cambridge as well. So that could be quite interesting as well. Next game, we got Grimsby 1. Weymouth 0. John McAtee late goal, nice, cool, calm finish. But I have to say, I do love the celebration more. The backflip, that's always good for me. I want to see more backflips from players. You always love a backflip, but as well, just in general, just looking at some of the pictures and photos from Grimsby, a nice sunny day on the seaside. It's near seaside, isn't it? I know.
It's right on the Lincolnshire coast. It is seaside.
Yeah, but. Well, not like sort of Carlisle, where it's right, not a seaside, but right near a river, which obviously risks flooding and stuff we've seen over the years. But yeah, nice sunny day for them, obviously. I'm sure after time they went and built some sandcastles or something. But genuinely, though, for them, their first game back in National League, obviously, because they didn't play on the opening day. Nice sort of opening day for them. And very sunny as well. You always get, just at end of August time when you're coming into a season, you always get those very sunny days and stuff from hangover from summer. So it's always nice for that. But yeah, Grimsby picking up their win. Always good, obviously, for a newly relegated side to get a win when they come back down.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for newly relegated sides to kind of continue that slump from last season, and for Grimsby to pick up that win on what is their opening day of the season can only be a good thing for them. Like, it can kind of arrest that sort of slump, really, and for their sake, I think it could be the start of something good if they can continue that sort of winning feeling.
Yeah, and Weymouth as well. Obviously, a loss for them. Well, maybe is it a bit of a shock for them, perhaps almost because of the size of a team. It can sometimes go in your favour in terms of you have that story of the underdogs that have beat the big team who've come down, but sometimes it can also be a bit of a shock as well that you've got so many fans in such a big stadium that perhaps you're not as used to as some other teams.
I disagree. I mean, okay, they didn't really have that sort of fans in the ground last season, but I think Weymouth are kind of used to going to places and being the underdog now. So I don't think they're kind of in over their heads at the moment. I think it's something that just won't really affect them going forward because they know what they're getting with this league now. It's not like they're total new boys anymore. They've had that sort of season's experience.
Yeah, moving into the next game, Maidenhead 2, Dover 0. Two early goals, Josh Kelly and Sam Barrett, as we said. Solid performance from Maidenhead, I'd say. Barrett, obviously, number of goals he scores. We know how many he's scoring for fun last season. But to be fair, gets a Dover side who, we say this every single time, it's sort of I do sort of feel sorry because it is going to be a very, very long, hard season for them, not just because of the financial situation in terms of the players and all that they've got, but also the points deduction as well. It's just very hard for them. But for Maidenhead as well, they'd be happy. You take a win, and any type of win is a confidence boost. But Maidenhead 2, Dover 0.
Yeah, I mean they went 6 for 6 from the opening two games, and you can't have any complaints from that as well. I mean, Sam Barrett as well, that was 2 goals in 2 for him at that point as well. So I think it's all about boosting that sort of confidence for Maidenhead. I mean, they showed last season that if they can put a little bit of a run together, then they could be quiet contenders for the playoffs. I mean, they're always going to be outsiders considering their budget's getting bigger the further up you go the league. But I think Maidenhead just have this little bit of togetherness about them, and they've been able to show that both last season and in their start to this season as well. I mean, last week at the Shea, they looked a decent enough outfit. So I think it'll be interesting to see how their season plays out for them. But yeah, for Dover, I think it is just it's not ideal for them. Everything you've just mentioned there. And I think a loss quite early on is not going to do any good for their confidence. So if they want to kind of pull off a miracle, then they're going to have to kind of find something special somewhere.
Yeah. Next game we got up, from what I saw on Twitter, was a little bit of early sort of fighting, if you like, on Twitter. So having an argument, was it Notts County 1, Torquay 1, obviously, but mainly over parts of sort of Notts County, stealing half of Torquay scored. Not quite half, it was only a few plays, but obviously things get exaggerated and fans were going back and forth before Twitter. So we already knew that it would be a little bit feisty, a little bit different. Danny Wright, though, you might say with the way Torquay have been in the first game, scored first, that sort of went against sort of what you might have expected. Scored first for them. And Kyle Wootton obviously scoring later on to make it 1-1. We know how many goals he could score. But frankly, at least what I know of, no actual in-person fights or scraps or anything, which is obviously good to see. But correct me on that if I'm wrong. I weren't stalking the Notts County or Torquay Twitter hashtag, so I'm not sure. But yeah, Torquay 1. Notts County 1, Torquay 1.
Well, I think for Torquay, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad result. I mean, particularly after going down to 10 men as well, I think a result away at Notts County, even if it is just that 1 point, it's a good result for them. I mean, I think they do have that sort of little bit of lowered expectations this year. So to be able to get a result like that's a good one for them. And then, as we were saying, Danny Wright and Gary Johnson are they just something about them two together. Like, Johnson knows how to get the best out of Danny Wright, and they've showed that last season. Like, when Danny Wright was out of the team, they struggled, and when he was in it, they did much, much better. So I think if Torquay are to kind of have any hopes of recreating the magic of last season as unlikely as it's starting to look, given how many of that squad left. And I think it is just going to come down to Danny Wright. And then, yeah, as you say, we all know what Carl Wotton's about at this point. He's just going to be pivotal to what Notts County do. Okay, yeah, maybe it's not an ideal result from their perspective, but I think, yeah, it's just going to be one that they're not going to look back on too fondly, but it's not the worst result in the world for them at the same time, I don't think.
Yeah, I have to agree. Next game, we've got Solihull 1, Barnet 1. Barnet coming off, obviously, that absolute 5-0 thrashing against Notts County, absolutely battered. But they managed to get a draw, which, I mean, after getting battered 5-0, you'd probably take a 1-0 or 2-0 loss just to recover some way from it. But a draw against a pretty fairly good Solihull team away from home as well, you'd take that as well. Andrew Dar scoring for Solihull, who we know the goals that he scored last season. Obviously, when he was on loan at Weymouth, obviously signed from Cambridge. So Cambridge giving away some good strikers, but we'll take it. And for Barnet as well, Daniel Powell got the goal. I think I saw a few fans saying obviously they're quite open against Notts in terms of how they played. Obviously, it showed up a bit this time. That's come out in the result as well, that they drew 1-1 compared to losing 5-0. And it should give them a bit of confidence, I think, as well, that they've bounced back from losing 5-0 to now a draw going into future games as well. But what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think it was always going to be interesting to see how Barnet responded to losing in such a fashion on the opening day. And credit to them, they've kind of, if they're able to get a result like that, then maybe they're aware of how to fix up those problems that were so clear on the opening day defeat. Yeah, you mentioned about Andy Dallas earlier. I was a big fan of his for last season. And I think for him, if he's going to start scoring like that, then he's clearly going to show what he's capable of yet again. Like, I think there is clearly a very good player in there, and I think he could prove to be one of the better players outside the sort of top teams, I think.
Yeah. Next one, we've got Southend 0, Stockport County 1. What do you make of it?
Well, it was always going to be a big game, wasn't it? One of the big Football League teams coming down versus one of the big candidates for promotion for this year. It was always going to be a feisty little affair. And I think ultimately, the big money of Stockport ended up proving the difference there. I mean, there's no doubt in what. I mean, you don't really want to be talking about money all day when it comes to football at lower league level, but that's the big difference there. And I think it's why they've been able to keep hold of players like John Rooney, who ultimately was the difference on Saturday. And I think again, it's a big statement of intent from Stockport as well to be able to go to a team like Southend and have that sort of win. I mean, it could be vital for them come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you mentioned John Rooney there, who scored both their goals up until this point. And bounced back as well from last week, against Dagenham, who we have seen now since gone on to do quite well. So maybe not as bad as you might have thought, but still bounced back from that as well. I think I said this last week, and I saw a few Southend fans saying Southend won the first game, sure, but they're a bit worried about the fact that it wasn't as dominant as you might have thought as well.
Yeah, no.
Even though they'd won.
I think it's a little bit sobering as well to have that first loss. I mean, we were saying before about how teams can kind of have that little bit of a slump when they come down, but I think when they win their opening game, like Southend did, they can very easily become overconfident and think, we're going to walk the league. But I think having that first defeat could be a little bit sobering for them. So I think that could kind of keep them level-headed, if anything.
There was just quickly before we finish on this game, there was a little rumour on Twitter. I saw that Ryan Riddell got 2 yellow cards or something like that, which I know there was a game, I think, in the World Cup or something where that happened, or 3 yellow cards, in fact. But
yeah, it was 3.
Chris Phillips, Southend Journal, said no, it didn't happen. So that's just a Twitter rumour. But that would have been that would have been active National League referees, wouldn't it?
Knowing how it works with updating for your flash scores, your BBC Sports, I know it will have been a mistake made by whoever was doing the update, so I don't think it won't have been a case of 2 yellows being given and no red. So
yeah. Anyway, we've got in the next game, we've got Woking 2, Halifax 3, which I'm obviously going to hand over to you. You can comment on whatever you want.
yeah, I mean, I think I wasn't there, but from everything I've heard about the game, it sounded like it was quite a good game. I mean, we had 2 very fantastic goals on the Halifax end of things. Like, if you can find it on Twitter, go look up Jesse Debra's first goal. It's just an absolute screamer.
It is.
You would not believe he was a centre back hitting that on his weak foot if you didn't know much about him. So, and then if you watch the third goal as well from Halifax, Billy Waters. I mean, what a start to the season. He's had 2 in 2 at that point, and he just hits it well from a really tight angle. But again, I think you have to give credit to Woking. They gave as good as they've got by the look of things. I mean, ultimately Halifax are a little bit more clinical, but I think if Woking are capable of putting in performances like that and maybe getting the wins, then maybe I was wrong in saying that they might be in that relegation battle. Maybe they're capable of mid-table, maybe even top half if things go well for them this year.
What do you make of Woking's penalty? Do you think that was a dive, or what do you make of it? Because when I was looking at it,
it's one of them where it's where you kind of have to, you kind of 50-50 about it. I mean, on the first angle I saw, I thought, nah, it's not a penalty whatsoever. But I think looking at it from the wide angle, it looked like there was maybe something in it. So, I mean, to this day, I'm still undecided about whether it's a penalty or not.
Yeah, either way though, Halifax won, so who cares? Going into the final game of this match week, we've got Yeovil 1, Kings Lynn 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kings Lynn were maybe needing that win after the defeat against Southend, and I think, I mean, to do it against a 10-man Yeovil side, okay, that's obviously going to make things a lot easier, but I think they still have to have that character to kind of push for the win. I mean, I saw it with Halifax the last couple of seasons, that sometimes being the side with 11 men in that situation can, on occasion, be harder. So I think for Kings Lynn to still get the win from that sort of situation was big for them. I mean, and then for Yeovil, of course, we have to point again at Joe Quigley. I mean, first goal for him this season. I mean, he's clearly got something about him. So, okay, they maybe didn't get the win today, but I think he could be on for a good season if he keeps scoring like he has done in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I've been worried about with Yeovil. It's the fact that they had for the newly relegated side, they had a pretty good first season back in the National League. Then they had that last season, obviously, where they had a massive difference in terms of where they finished. So it was a bit worried for them coming into the season about how well they'd actually do. But when they won the up and they got the red card, obviously Matthew Worthington was the change in the game for them. So they'd go down obviously 2-0 to Kings Lynn, who
2-1, not 2-0.
2-1. Sorry, again.
You just said they opened it, then you pretending the goal didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it might as well have not happened for them. But, against no disrespect to Kings Lynn, but sort of smaller side in comparison to Yeovil, to the club size, etc., obviously, would be disappointed for them. And obviously for them, they're going to want
I mean, the obvious worry with Yeovil at this point becomes, will they end up being a side that gets relegated, but then gets stuck in this league for years and years to come? Like we've seen it with Wrexham, that it is easy just to kind of fall into that sort of spider web, maybe, of just being stuck in this league. And so I think if Yeovil don't have a serious promotion push in this season or the next, then I think they might just be stuck here for that. I mean, for a while, unfortunately.
Now move on to the second half of this sort of bank holiday weekend podcast. We're going to the 30th of August and 31st for the last game. First game we've got going up Torquay 0, Woking 4, absolute thrashing for Torquay, an absolute brilliant result for Woking. They were 2-0 down after 4 minutes. Tavern Campbell and Rowan Ince. Both goals were sort of identical, really. Cross came in, headed across the box, then sort of a tapping or a sliding, sort of just nipping it past the keeper for Woking. And if you're 2-0 down after 4 minutes, you sort of, I think to the Torquay fans would have been out of the game already, thinking game over, I'm not coming back. Just a battering for Torquay, but absolutely brilliant result for Woking.
Well, I think one word can sum up that game, and that word is wow. I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted that happening. I mean, credit to Woking. It's like I was saying when we were talking about the Halifax game. I mean, they've clearly got something about them this season, and I might be completely wrong in saying they were going to be in that relegation battle, because how on earth have they pulled that off at Torquay? Obviously, from the Torquay perspective, I think being 2-0 down in 4 minutes, I mean, that's just a sign of how the day is going to go for you, unfortunately. And then to go down to 10 men after 25 minutes as well, I mean, it's just not good enough for them, plain and simple. I mean, I think if anything, that's a sign that this isn't the Torquay side of last season, and I think they will get out of this slump eventually. But at the moment, it's been a nightmare start for them.
Yeah, but as well, obviously giving credit to Woking as well. I mean, the third goal was a good finish from Campbell as well. But then I think the fourth, I can't remember what it's called. I think I remember you tweeting about it. Was that the amount of space he had and the amount of time? It's like that game, that app that went around. You know, where you play the football. I can't remember. I'm sure you tweeted about it, where when you get the ball, it pauses and then you get a direct
Score hero.
Score hero. That's it.
I mean, I wasn't the one that tweeted about it, but I think I know the one you're on about.
Yeah, it was like that because it was just like the way you just had so much time to run with the ball, and you could have stopped them, had a picnic or something outside the box. Plenty of time just to run into space and stuff like
that. You can't be letting Woking get away with that if you're Torquay. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just not good enough for them. I mean, I don't like to condemn a team like that, but it's poor. It's plain and simple. It's poor. I mean, like I said, I do think they do have the ability to turn that around, but it's just not the Torquay side of last season, plain and simple.
Yeah, you're right there. And well, you mentioned there about your prediction that you made about sort of where you think Woking would.
I did get a little bit of stick on in terms of one of the comments about that, and I think I'm going to have to officially denounce that comment about my prediction of Woking, because I think they clearly are capable of mid-table based on their start to the season.
Yeah, shout out to Will for bullying Lewis there. But we're only a few games in, but it does look like we're sort of going for that as well. But we'll see what happens. I mean, they had a good start last season and sort of faded away, so we'll see what happens. Next game we've got Bromley 3, Eastleigh 0. What do you think of it? Again, another sort of thrashing, if you like.
I was a little bit surprised about them, because to go down to 10 men and still win 10 go down to 10 men and still win 3-0 rather, it's just a sign of, again, I was saying about the character before with Dagenham. I think with Bromley, I think there's some good characters in that squad, and to be able to hold on and win by any scoreline, let alone 3-0 once you're down to 10, is just an incredible feat, really. I want to say on Eastleigh, though, I am quite surprised about the start of the season. I know it's only been 2 games, but they've not even scored yet. I mean, if we go back to my predictions, I had Eastleigh down as maybe being a quiet contender for the playoffs. And okay, maybe it's been a tough start for them, but this isn't how I'd expected it to go for them at all. I mean, I honestly can't call whether they're going to turn it around or not, because it's quite surprising, really. I mean, I think they will have that sort of unpredictability about them this season, Easter, because again, I think if they were, I don't think anyone was really consistent in how they predicted them. I saw some, like me, predicting them to do quite well, and others predict them to struggle. So I think Eastleigh will, again, they've shown in this start to the season that they could be quite unpredictable.
I mean, the first goal came from James Alabit, who just a nice, cool finish, if you like, for the first goal. But the second goal was quite good as well. Where Skefford split open the Eastleigh defence, just went right through and like they put it past the keeper as well. And then for the third goal, Michael Cheek just sort of tricking them with the way he sort of was, I thought you might say a bit dangerous, but where he was sort of went past them and sort of tricked the defence to score the third as well. It was a nice little clever finish. I think it's what perhaps the scoreline, it's just Eastleigh, you're going to be always disappointed with a 3-0, but the scoreline perhaps not as lopsided because there were, look at some of the highlights, some all right chances for Eastleigh, so perhaps not as lopsided as it might sort of look from them. But next game. Go on.
Well, I think as well, James Alaby's not had the best run of things since leaving Chester. I mean, he was absolutely lethal there, but since leaving, he's just been a bit of a shadow of his former self. But I mean, since coming to Bromley, I think he's kind of maybe rediscovered his best days. I mean, I think if he again, as you say, he did well for the goals. So I think there is signs that his best days are coming back. And I think if he's capable of doing that consistently again, and I think then Bromley might have one hell of a player. I mean, again, Michael Cheek, he showed what he's capable of last season, and so far he looks like he's capable of doing it again this year.
Yeah. Next game we got Halifax 2, Oxford 1. Halifax coming into this game off the back of what was their first win, the first game of the season, obviously. Coming into it as well, Halifax as well had a bit of a little bit of a mixed start, but 2-1 sort of getting into it now. You're a Halifax fan, obviously. What do you make of it from what you saw?
Well, I think it was a sign of what Halifax are capable of this year. I mean, I think you can put the Maidenhead game down to it being a bit of a nightmare pre-season. I mean, we had games called off left, right, and centre. I mean, I think we went nearly 10 days between our last friendly and opening game of the season, so they were maybe a little bit rusty, maybe. But I think, and even in that game, they showed that there was something about the side. But on Monday, I think there was just that little bit of confidence about Halifax. I mean, Altrincham never put them in any kind of danger of losing the game. It was just a complete. It was a confidence display from Halifax. They were great going forward. They were great at the back. And again, Billy Waters, as I've said, what a start to the season. He's had 3 games, 3 goals. And honestly, it wasn't even his best game. Like, he could have easily had 3 or 4 if he put all of his chances away. So I think if he can start to put all of his chances away, then I think Halifax has got one hell of a player. I mean, I think it's a bit brave to start saying, "Oh, Halifax are going to get the playoffs, or Halifax are going to win the league," but they do have that sort of confidence about them this season. So it'd be interesting to see how they go. I mean, Altrincham, on the other hand, I think, unfortunately, I think Marcus Dinango worked to their detriment because they got it into some good positions at times, admittedly, but he just broke the play down for his own team. So I think if he can maybe, getting back into sync with his team, then they might be able to do something. But no, he just worked to the detriment for Altrincham.
Well, quite the contrast to them, obviously 3-1 winning their first game, so now 2-0 loss, quite a contrast. Was that did they look like a side that just sort of scored 3 goals the previous week?
Not particularly, no. And as well, I think you can point that Halifax had to play on the Saturday, whereas Altrincham had that 9-day break. But you'd honestly think it was the other way around. I mean, they looked tired at times, did Altrincham. Like, the later on in the game, I mean, Halifax just kind of were able to take it to them even more because they just didn't look prepared, really, whereas Halifax just, again, like I said, you would not think that they had that game on Saturday or the 400-mile round trip that they had to do on Saturday as well. I mean, I think all in all, they looked professional. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Halifax.
Yeah, coming into the next game, Dover 0, Bournemouth 1. Now, obviously spoke about Dover before as well, but I'd say, that's not too bad. I don't think, say, Bournemouth are now up there fine, looking quite good as well. Obviously, with the players they've got, look like they will do that quite well. I don't think that's too bad for Dover, considering the position they're in. I think you'd sort of probably take that as all right.
It's a respectable result for them, I think, given the start that Bournemouth had. I think, okay, it's not a win or a draw, but I think it's something to kind of build on because they're capable of maybe grinding these sort of top teams to a halt in a way, if they as shown by that. But I think from a Boreham Wood perspective, I think they're showing that the old principle of a good defence wins you titles or promotion, because 3 games from now, it's still yet to concede. So I think if they're able to keep that sort of good run at the back going, then that's going to be the key to how well they do this season.
As well, and the goal for Bournemouth, Kane Smith crosses it in, and Goodman just sort of is an own goal. But really, it's like that's one of them where you put such a good cross in that you just sort of make the defence scared, and they just sort of tap it.
It absolutely panics the defence when you've got a ball launched into the middle like that. I mean, I don't think it's too surprising that was the outcome. So if they're able to put balls in like that all season, then who knows what they're capable of.
The next game we've got Wellstone 0, Southend 0. Again, also no goals in the game. A game where two sides come away thinking quite different. I think this is now, I saw Leon Imber, Southend fan, saying this is realising that we're in non-league now and this is where we are, and it's might not be as easy as perhaps some people thought and stuff. And a lot of Southend fans quite sort of I think part of the reaction as well is obviously this sort of that realisation now a few games in that, okay, this is what we're in. From what I heard, like the first half was better than the second half, but not great overall. And I think you'd probably say Wellstone are happy to grind out a 0-0 against one of the bigger teams in the league as well, even if they're probably not the best based on sort of what we said previously about how the newly relegated teams do.
Yeah, I mean, Leon's kind of taken the words out of my mouth there. I think we were saying before about how sobering of an experience the last game was for Southend. Well, I think failing to beat Wealdstone really is as sobering as you can get, really. And I think as well, I mean, to say that Wealdstone were a disallowed goal away from winning the game as well, I mean, it's as sobering as you can get for Southend. I think this, as Leon's already said, this is kind of the welcome to non-league that they maybe weren't expecting. I mean, they kind of need to learn that this is their level, really. I mean, they can't be going into games being overconfident, thinking, oh, we're Southend United, we're going to absolutely walk this. They kind of need to accept that this is where they are now. They're not anything special compared to the rest of the league. They need to kind of accept that, and then maybe once that kind of overconfidence is out of their system, then maybe they can kick on. But yeah, from a Wealdstone perspective, that's a fantastic result, and it just gives them something to build on, I think.
I agree there as well. So I'll be interested to see how both those teams do in the next game. Next game coming up, Kings Lynn 0, Chesterfield 2, 2 goals from Kabonga Shimanga. That man who went scoring goals as always. First goal was a penalty. And of course, I thought Mandeville had already sort of played the ball before McFadden came in and made the contact. It looked like to me, but it's hard to see the National League because you don't always get 20 angles like the Premier League and stuff.
You don't, and you can argue that the refereeing's even more inconsistent at this level, but I mean that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, but for the penalty, Shimanga hit it hard, and Jones got a touch, but he just hit it so hard that you just nothing to do. If he'd not hit it as hard, he might have been able to tip it away a bit.
Sometimes the penalties, there's just nothing you can do about it. I mean, and I think that one was just an example of it. Yeah,
and the second goal, again, people say tapping and stuff like that, but that's what you pay your strikers there.
See, I never get when people say, "Oh, he's a tapping merchant." Well, you've got to score them goals. I mean, if I wouldn't mind a quote unquote tapping merchant if he scores 30 goals a season. That's what they're paid to do. So if Shimanga, I don't think that Chesterfield fans will complain if Shimanga scores 30 tappings this season. It's what they've paid him to do. But yeah, again, Shimanga, we knew he was going to be one of the best strikers in the league this season, and he's just shown that this season. I mean, whether it is a tap-in or a penalty, he's just amongst the best in that department. So we've said it before, I'll say it again, he's just going to be key to Chesterfield. So, but I think as well, you can point to the fact that Chesterfield haven't even conceded this season. So it's like we said with Warren Wood, a good defence is a big part of how a team can become successful. So if Chesterfield are firing on both cylinders, then they're going to be real candidates for this year.
Yeah, I have to agree with what you said, that as I was going to say about sort of tapping merchants, if you like, but you've got to be there, that's the thing, and you've got to be in a place where you can making the runs and moving about in a way that you just, Kingsland, no, Shimanga, he's the key guy, mark him.
Exactly.
You've got to be, so especially when you've got the size of him and stuff, that they're going to stick to perhaps 2 men on him to corners and those types of positions as well. So when the head cross comes in, header from Garland, and it just gets in there and just gets it in. That's how you've got to do, get that touch in.
Yeah.
And if it was that easy, then I'd be playing centre forward for Chesterfield because I could run anywhere and be a tapping merchant. You know what I mean? But it's about the intelligence.
I mean, you never know. You might want to get in touch with James Owen and see if you need a striker.
I mean, yeah, I think get Jeff King on the pod. I'll send him a message later on, see if I can get.
Yeah, you never know. We can link you up with. He can link you up. Yeah.
I did play winger at school, so maybe a nice little down the right. Anyway, as well, Kingsland as well. So I think it's hard to make a judgment for them based off Chesterfield because they do look like they're going to be one of the key sides and stuff. So even if they got a goal, it's like I think even if they got a goal to break Chesterfield's run of sort of clean sheets and not conceding would have been good for them. Yeah, but it's hard to base off that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was it's a tough opening 3 games for them as well. So I think to get 3 from 9 isn't the worst. Isn't the worst thing in the world for them. And if anything, I think they might take that.
Especially considering the teams have been playing as well, which is obviously you got.
I think they've got Easter next, haven't they? So I think that will be the real test for them in terms of where they're at.
As well. Next game we got Weymouth 3, Maidenhead 1. Weymouth's first win of the season, and in fact the first goals they've had this season, not scored before this. Maidenhead lost after winning the first 2 as well. Josh McCoy, top scorer last season of the players who were still there, obviously a few less like Dallas and all that. So for them, obviously a bit of a different from previous games. Obviously, Weymouth winning and Maidenhead losing.
Yeah. Again, we were saying about tough starts of Kingsland, and I think with Weymouth, I didn't think you could really take anything from their opening 2 games. Boreham Wood and Grimsby, 2 tough games for them. But whereas Maidenhead, I think, they had a realistic chance of getting something from that, and credit to them, they did that. I mean, again, to get the 3 goals as well, I think that's kind of they've got lift off in that regard. So it'll do wonders for the confidence. And then Maidenhead, okay, they didn't get the result either, but Josh Kelly scored again, and I think he's going to be someone that's going to be vital in terms of how they do this season.
Yeah. Feel just about on time here, looking at it. So we've probably got 15 minutes left up, so we're about on time, which is good, as always. Right. Aldershot 1, Yeovil 2. So again, we mentioned Yeovil in terms of them wanting to bounce back and stuff like that in the first half, and obviously Aldershot, the rut they're in. And that's sort of what's happened here is that Aldershot continued their rut, but Yeovil have managed to bounce back after sort of what you might say they probably should have won the game last week.
Yeah, we were saying about Joe Quigley as well when we were talking about Yeovil's game on Saturday, and then again he scored. He's got 2 this time, and that's taken him to joint top scorers. So I think like I was saying, he's going to be a big part of what they do this year. But with Aldershot, it's just a case of, I'll say it again, something is not right there, and I think they need to get to the bottom of it sooner rather than later, because otherwise they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Joe Quigley. He's going to be the key for them, for Yeovil, depending on how well they do. He's going to be the key. If he goes on a good run and gets, bags a lot of goals, that's the difference for them between playoffs and mid-table, even, a bit higher than playoffs. Because Murphy was obviously their top scorer last season, but he's gone to Southend, so he's their top scorer from plays still there, and he's going to be an absolute key. And he's proven that already.
Yeah, there was always going to be them concerns about what they were going to do without Rhys Murphy, but fair play to Quigley. I think he's stepped up to the mark, and if he can fill that sort of Rhys Murphy-shaped hole in the side, then I don't think Murphy will be as big of a loss as it might have been anticipated to be.
Yeah, the penalty did look a little bit soft for me, but Yeovil will take a little bit of a shit out of it, I think, as well, just to get a good win on the board.
I mean, for every decision they have like that, they'll have one that goes against them this season. I think that's the way National League refereeing seems to work at times.
Yeah. Aldershot, the only team to lose 3 from 3. Obviously, other teams have lost 2 from 2, but not played 3 games, which is sort of settling in that sort of, okay, this could be a long and hard season, but it's only 3 games in and stuff. So we've seen weirder things happen in any leagues. We've seen teams lose the first 4 and then go on to win the league with 100 points. So
I mean, look at Halifax last season. They had a really bad run to start the season, and then they ended up being genuinely unlucky to miss out on the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Dagenham as well. They started poorly, and look at them last season. They just missed out.
Yeah, but don't get easy for them because they travel to Notts County next week. So for them, they're looking at it like, you might want to sort of quote unquote easy game, if you like. No easy games, but easier game, and travel Notts County away. So nice fixture list has sort of gone nice for them. But who knows? Like I said, they might Notts County could be very well too overconfident for them and might nick something. But we'll see what happens. Next game we've got Barnet 0, Dagenham Redbridge 2. And this is the game for Dagenham, which puts them top of the table. We'll come to the table later on, but that does put them top of the table now, as I've obviously recording this. Barnet, you're looking at it the way that Dagenham are, I think would be a bit, you want to win, obviously, and you want to get a draw at the very least, but I think you'd of be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, in a local derby as well, it's always going to be a little bit of a tense game going into it. But credit to Dagenham, they've kind of stood up and gotten the win there. Again, I guess it's against the Barnet side that probably aren't on that same sort of level of Dagenham, but we've seen in derbies that anything can happen. And with Dagenham, they've just shown their credentials of what they're capable of this season. Three wins from 3 games. Again, nothing to turn your head up at. I mean, they said it before, say it again. Dagenham, I think, could be real contenders for the playoffs this year. I mean, but if they keep going the way they are, they might be the kind of dark horse amongst that sort of trifecta of Wrexham, Chesterfield, and Stockport. Maybe they could be the ones that kind of stop those 3 from winning the league.
We'll have to see, obviously, but for the game itself, like I said, goals came from Paul McCallum and Josh Walker. First goal, McCallum. We talked about tapping merchants before, but like I said, again, you've got to be in those positions. Will Wright has a shot, the keeper parries it straight to the path of McCallum, bang, tapping, easy goal of his career. And we call them tapping merchants, but you've got to be there. If he's a few yards either side, a bit further back or whatever, you don't get to it and you don't score. So you've got ourselves the intelligence to sort of anticipate where shots will go or tap-ins, saves will go and stuff like that. And he did, and he got the goal as well. And second goal, looked like they're having a game of heads and vods or something because the ball just bounced about off everybody's heads. McCallum tried to get on the end of it, possibly fouls the keeper. I don't know if you want to say he does. And then Walker's there again to tap it in as well. So you might call them tapping merchants, but you've got to be there because if you're not there, then you don't get the goal. So, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's a foul on the keeper. He does sort of get in the way, obstructs him, let's just say. But I don't know if that's enough for a foul or whatever. But game's over in it. So, and they're now flying as well. 3 wins from 3 in the top of the table, like we said. So,
exactly.
Looks like we're going to do quite well.
Yeah, I mean, they were always going to be predicted to do quite well, but I mean, maybe some people have kind of underestimated them. Like I said, maybe they could be the one to kind of be the dark horse. And I mean, okay, maybe it's a bit too early to have that discussion, but they're certainly showing that they may be capable of being in that early discussion.
Final 2 games, but coming up, Wrexham 1, Notts County 1. Obviously, your former Halifax player, Hyde, obviously on there. So first of all, there was an offside goal. Hyde heads it to Jamie Jones, who scores a wonderful volley, but was it offside? And I'm looking at it. I don't really think.
I don't think it is. No, I mean, I think the linesman's got that badly wrong on that occasion. I mean, it's a shame as well because it's a beautiful goal. It's just unfortunate we have referees that have to spoil all our fun in the game. So. Yeah, I think that's ultimately what cost Wrexham in the end. I mean, obviously, again, you have Notts County and then able to capitalise on that by getting that goal on the brink of half time. And that's always going to be a killer. But credit to Wrexham for coming out and scoring within 8 minutes of the second half starting. I mean, they showed again that they've got character in that squad. And I think as well, that I think Wrexham, okay, they didn't win, but I think they showed what they were capable of because at times they were really good at just boxing Notts County inside their own half. But at the same time, I think you'd expect that given how much Wrexham have spent on that side. They kind of have to prove that they have that quality that's worth spending so much on.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for Wharton's goal, I do love those types of headers where the ball just comes in and you head it and it just loops over. Those are my favourite types of headers. So as well for him, I think I tweeted something like water is wet or something when he scored that. It's just like you should expect it of him. The amount of goals he scored is not a shock as well. As well for Wrexham to come back from that and get a goal as well. Jones crosses it in and it sort of just it's hard to see we don't have 20 angles, but it looks like Mullen just sort of sneaks it in. Just the keeper looks like he's going to catch it. He can close his eyes and think I'm going to catch this, and then Mullen just comes in out of nowhere last minute, just gets a touch on it, and then it just ends up in the goal. Again, I'd like to see a more closer angle of everything to see exactly what happened, But again, from what I saw, it just looks like he just come in at the last minute and it sneaked it in.
Yeah, exactly. I think as you header like that, so I think it was just a great example of it there.
Coming up to a final game, and speaking about timers, I think we've got this perfectly on time for an hour, which is good. Stockport 0, Grimsby 0. Game I was at.
You would have won at the game, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so I did tweet obviously about this. Got a few stick from a Grimsby fan about not tweeting about them. I did tweet about you. I was giving the dog some food. Speaking of dogs, actually, my dog's right next to me. That was a good time knocking on the door. I've got my dog right next to me. Rory is a Yorkshire Terrier. Anyway, I was at that game, and I was sort of expecting a few goals from Stockport in terms of the players they've got. So that's one of the reasons why I went to it, but ended up in 0-0. Anyway, I said this on Twitter as well, so I'm sort of rehashing what I said on Twitter. But Stockport were number one from the start, really. Grimsby didn't really have that many sort of dominant spells. They had chances and stuff. Looked like they had a goal disallowed, of course. But Stockport were just there, relentless, sort of putting the balls in, making the chances. They had players on the pitch, but just couldn't get it in. I think this is what we're saying. I spoke to the guys from the Bagara podcast last season, which is that Stockport would score a lot of goals, but when you had a look at the amount of chances they created, they weren't that efficient compared to some other teams. Now, some people might argue it doesn't matter. It's about the amount of goals you score, concede, and points at the end. But looking at it, just looking at the amount of chances they were creating, the balls were putting in. I think Walker tried an overhead kick once, which, considering that, really should be Rooney trying that for continuity reasons. But they were just putting the balls in. I think Madden had a really good header. He could have scored, but it was wonderful ball in and just sort of put the ball, sort of diving header that should have probably put in the goal. So they created all the chances, but just couldn't get it in. Both teams did score, but had disallowed, which obviously would be good for the podcast to talk about the goal. But there we go. And it's just one of them where, looking at it, I'm confident it will work out for Stockport because they've got players who have a proven track record of scoring goals and creating goals across all their careers. You've got 4 or 5 players who are proven of that, and they're having these in the games where they're having dominant possession of the ball as well, from what I've seen. So you put those two together, you think it's just a little tweak. They've still got Quigley, obviously, to come back. I think he's been injured the past few games. You're looking at that. That's just 1 or 2 little tweaks, perhaps swapping a player around position-wise.
I mean, once they make those sort of little tweaks, then you have to have that feeling that it's going to be coming for Stockport. I mean, there clearly is the ability there. They just need to get it right on the day.
But as well, we'll give credit to Grimsby. They did defend very well throughout the game, and I think they came for a point, which I can't blame them for wanting to do that. You win your home games, draw your away ones, you end up there 2 points and 2 points average. You're up there at the end of the season, but they defended very well against some of the sort of bigger name players as well. You are in that game, so I think credit to Grimsby as well. They defended well and nearly nicked it really, but the goal was offside. I think it was offside or an injury, a foul. Sorry, that sort of got them, but it was a nice sort of lob over the keeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to give credit as well to Grimsby. I mean, that on a Tuesday night, that's a fantastic away following in. What was it? 1,200 was that the figure?
I think it was 1,000, yeah. But the gate, it looked packed from where I was sat. So,
I mean, you have to give credit. I mean, a following like that on a Tuesday night is always going to give you players that little bit of a boost, and it bodes well for in terms of having that extra 10% in some of those harder games down the line.
Yeah, I mean, on the train back from Stockport, there's a few Grimsby fans on there who were sort of a lot of chants and stuff, and there's lots of all that, annoying a few of the other communities, which I didn't mind it. I'm a football fan, but some of the other guys were a bit annoyed by that, but that was quite good. So they got off at Piccadilly, or Victoria, sorry. I mean, again, like I said, that was nice day out for me, obviously, and accidentally saw someone on Twitter, James Bamber, shout out to James Bamber, who I'm convinced he's stalking me, but I'll have to leave that for another time. Let the court sort that out. But yeah, again, I have to say, do as well the Cheadle end. I sort of may have accidentally sat near sort of all the ultras, I'm going to call them. And they probably don't want to call themselves ultras, but I accidentally sort of sat near all that, and there were lots of all the drums and all that. So my heart's all just recovered from the banging, but it's all right now.
I thought they liked using the term ultras nowadays.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea which
I,
ones.
I think that's what they prefer to use nowadays.
Fair enough then.
So let's go with that.
We'll go with ultras, yeah. If anyone's got any complaints, send it
You
to
can send them
Lewis.
to Nathan, not me.
No, send it to Lewis.
No. He's the one that used ultras to begin with, so
Yeah. No, but honestly, I will say that stand, it's a two-tiered stand type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the big. I think I saw something. Don't quote me on this. Biggest in non-league. I'm not sure about that, but it's a big stand, obviously.
yeah.
The away end they've robbed from Gillingham. If you've seen the stand, you know what I mean as well.
Yeah.
The sort of. I don't know what it's called, but the stand along the Hardcastle. They've robbed that from Oldham, and the other stand, I don't know if they've robbed that from Halifax. We'll go with Halifax. We'll say it's the same. But the stand itself, obviously, very big. There's a nightmare to get out out the actual ground. Also, I'm just doing this to fill for the hour because we've got to get to an hour. So we'll keep going with this. It was a nightmare to get out, but and I got it for 12 quid as well, which is always good. And I got a program which had a lot of information in as well. So all right, good day out at Stockport as well. I think I'm at Halifax in a few weeks because I've got a Northern Rail deal, £1 ticket. So I'm at Halifax. So you got to go and tell Pete Wild to go and spruce up Halifax for me. Paint all the stands, paint all the seats, and all that, make it all good. So I could give him a good review.
Just don't give him any reason to go back to Oldham.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll see. Good manager. And I think looking at it, I'm going to try and get to Altrincham game because if you can't tell where I'm from Manchester, so they're the obvious ones. But hopefully Wrexham, once they allow foreigners in, because from England, obviously, and all that, and Chesterfield and Notts County, and maybe a bit in London. We don't know. We'll see. We'll see what games we get to. We'll see. And so you're going to be on travels with Halifax, hopefully. Maybe we don't know. So you'll be down in Torquay, I think. We're saying you're going to do Torquay away or.
But we'll have to see about that one. I can't really say anything until then.
That's a yes.
I think maybe if we top of the league, then we'll have to see.
That's good. When Halifax play Torquay, I don't know when it is. Could be next week for all I know. Could be 6 months. I've got no idea. Got to get a hashtag going about a bandwagon forcing you to go Torquay away. So I'm going to force you. Anyway, that nice little bit of filler about my day out has managed to get us to an hour. We said this at the start as well, but FCA's go and vote for us. We'll leave a link in the description. Be on our Twitter. Go and vote for us. You don't get anything apart from boosting my ego. I don't know. Is there anything else? You boost my ego, but go and do it. Go and do it because it's always helping someone out.
Give him the satisfaction of taking votes off Ollie Bayliss.
Yeah, I mean, just one of them. But also as well, just in general, go and have a look and see if any of your creators who you like are on there. If you go and find out some vlogger you watch or you love is taking part as well, go and vote for them as well. Not just saying vote for us, but go and vote for go and find out who's in there.
I mean, it's been a good platform for some fantastic content creators over the past couple of years. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could give you the chance to discover someone new as well.
Yeah, and as well, if we do get an award, gold, silver, bronze. Once I get my background sorted out, that's going to look quite good. So I can't really convince you anything else apart from boost my ego, brings a better background. So go and do it anyway.
I don't know. We might have a proper green screen if we win.
Yeah, green screen would be good as well. But the budget won't pay for that, so we'll go. Anyway, as always, thanks to Lewis. Obviously, it's an hour episode this week. Take your time out and come and have a chat about all the teams and Halifax. Big up Halifax as well, but as well. And yeah, just thanks everybody for watching for the whole hour as well.
All right.
And I looked at the numbers. The support was quite good on the first episode, so it's quite good.
All right.
But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully, we'll see you next week for another review.